We'll call this meeting to order at this time. Let us stand for our invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Oh, I'm sorry. My chair got my dress. I tell it to you loose.
To the maker of the heavens and the earth, we thank you for this precious day. We thank you for a new opportunity at life. We thank you for the new opportunity to serve this great city. We thank you for the formulation of this new combination of our Florence City Council. We ask that you will be with us as we know you always are, that you will grant each and every one of us wisdom and knowledge, that we may abide according to your rules, your orders, and your steps, for we then can be better public servants to the citizens of Florence and to our neighboring sister cities. So we welcome you into this meet today. Please have your way so that we can do what's best for all of those who look to us for leadership. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Council, in accordance to our agenda, you will see that we do have minutes to be approved. We have minutes from November the 14th, 2022 regular meeting. We have minutes from November the 21st, 2022 for investors ceremony. And then we have November the 28th, 2022 special minutes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve all three.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. At this time, we are going to prepare to go into our public hearing. And I do want to acknowledge, as stated in our invocation, we do have two new council members. And I will reserve for us at the end of the meeting, if there's no objections, that the two council members have an opportunity at the end of our meetings to state. Will there be an objection having that done? Hearing none, both council members will have the opportunity at the close of our meeting to give a statement. Next, we have our public hearing, and it is a public hearing that will be held to receive input on amendments of the fiscal year of 2022-23 for City of Florence budget. I declare the public hearing open. Do we have anyone to speak? Hearing none, I declare our public hearing closed. At this time, we have the election of the Mayor Pro Tem, and if there's no objection, I'll open the floor for nominations.
Mayor, I move that we reappoint Councilman Jabali as Mayor Pro Tem by acclamation.
I second that motion.
All right. So we have acclamation vote to reaffirm Mayor Pro Tem Jabali. No discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor for the election of Mayor Pro Tem to be Councilman Jabali, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Therefore, let it be known that I'm reappointed Mayor Pro Tem Mr. Bailey. Next, we will have appearance before councils, and each person who give a notice to speak to us, we are asking that you limit your presentation to 5 minutes. At this time, we will hear from Ms. Connie Anderson, the director of the Florence Regional Airport, to provide an update on the current plans and activities at the airport.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely.
My name is Connie Anderson. As she said, I am the executive director. I've been with the airport 19 years, 6 of those as the executive director. And I tell you, it's been an experience. It's a wonderful experience, and I'm thankful to be able to represent our fine region in the role of executive director. Next slide, please. We're governed by the airport authority. Representatives from Florence County, Florence City, Marion County, and Dillon County. I just wanted to list those so you can have an idea of who it is that actually makes the big decisions at our airport. Next slide, please. The airport, my primary function is to manage the property of the airport. We have 1,483 acres of land there with 15 facilities. 2 active runways, which is pretty phenomenal for an airport of our size. So Florence really has a lot to be proud of there. 10 active taxiways. The airport itself has 16 employees, but overall, the total number of employees at the airport is 194 through the airport operations of the other concessions that are in attendance there. Next slide, please. We are now currently being serviced by American Airlines. That's our only airline. We have 2 incoming and 2 outgoing flights a day. If you could slide that up a little bit, does that go up a little bit higher? Okay. We have service we have 2 jets that service our airport. The Embraer 145, which is a 55-passenger jet, and we have the CRJ 700s currently. We've just gotten those in the last couple of months, which is huge for us because for the first time in history that I can remember, we now have first class offered in our area. So that's pretty phenomenal. I wanted to display the cancellations. You can leave it there. That's good. Because there's a huge misconception that a lot of flights out of Florence are canceled. And let me see if I can just pull this back up here. And that's really not true. Last year, our cancellation rate was less than 3%. That means 97% of the time your flight's going to arrive and it's going to go out like it's supposed to. So that was the reason why I wanted to include that on that slide. Go on back to the next one, please. American Airlines, what you can see here is how our numbers have been impacted by the pandemic. I wanted to kind of give an illustration there to show that, we had a hard time there for a little while, but we're now back on the rise, and that's thanks to a lot of the programs that we've put in place that you're going to see here in just a few minutes. Next slide, please. So where are people traveling to? We get this question a lot when I do these presentations. Where are they traveling to? They're traveling to New York and Chicago and South Florida. The significance of the numbers on the right is that from our region, the Florence Regional Airport is only capturing about 26% of the market. What that means is 73.8% of the people that live in our area are flying out of other airports. My goal and our ambition at the airport is to change that radically. That's what we're trying to do. And that's in the domestic travel. International travel, we're only capturing 5.6%. 94.40% are going to other airports. And if you look underneath there's your rate comparison. So it's not that our rates are radically different, that we're higher. We're very competitive in our rates. It's just that for some reason, people are choosing to travel otherwise, and we want to bring these folks back. That's our goal. Next slide, please. The effects of COVID-19. For 3 months, Florence Airport was shut. We weren't shut down, but we didn't have any air traffic as far as the commercial side. As a result of that, our revenues were hit almost 50%. And in 2021, you see that's coming back up. We were just down 36%. 2022 is looking better. We're still not back to 100% because, we were 4 flights prior to pandemic. Now we're at 2. But we have the larger jets. So our employment numbers are showing improvement. So it's hopeful that things are going to continue to turn around there. Next slide, please. How do we survive? We survive by the generous funding from the FAA or federal government called the CARES program. I'm sure a lot of you have heard it. Florence Airport were entitled to $18 million from that. $10 million of it is going to new project development because we just broke ground on that part of that project this week and part of last week. So you'll see that in just a few minutes too. And the $8 million was used to supplement the shortfall in our revenue. That's how we survived. And our projects that we did that on the airport, on the infrastructure, in the taxiways and runways were 100% funded by the FAA during that 2020 and 2021. Next slide, please. So how are we being good stewards of the CARES money? We, of course, use it to supplement our operation expenses. We were able to keep all our employees, and that's huge because a lot of people were having to lay off, and for us to have 3 months of no commercial air service, that's pretty huge. The airport is, for the first time in history, debt-free. We have no debt whatsoever. We've purchased new equipment to maintain the airfield. We've purchased new IT equipment, computers. We have state-of-the-art security cameras at the airport now, and we're converting our badging system. We've made some much-needed repairs and updates to our current infrastructure. And I'm sure this is what everybody wants to know about, is we hired a consultant, an air service consultant, to help us in our pursuits for new air service. So we are working. I mean, it's a tough time right now. If y'all know, as y'all know, across the United States, we're still, the air service part of the plan is still being hit by COVID-19. Unfortunately, people have gotten accustomed to Zooming, and they're not meeting a lot still, but we are starting to see that turn, and hopefully our consultant will help us be our name getting dropped into these programs so that when the time comes and they start searching, they'll look at Florence. We also hired a marketing group called Influence Digital Agency. We have a brand new website, and we've created a marketing plan. If you follow us on social media, you'll see that there's a lot more activity. We are present in all social media platforms. That's due to our partnership with Influence Digital Agency, and we've seen a tremendous turnaround as far as activity on our website since we engaged them to help us with that program. Next one, please. The $10 million that we talked about earlier that is going to new development, this is what we broke ground on this week. You're going to see 2 brand new corporate hangars. We're starting what we call a corporate row, which is going to be the larger type of hangars, and we're going to have 8 new T hangars. We have a waiting list out there, and we'd like to get those people from going to other airports and coming to ours. Next, please. We have installed new parking machines. I'm certain some of you, or maybe quite a number of you, can share horror stories about being trapped in our parking lot. I apologize for that. Our parking machines at the time were outdated, much need an update, and we've done that now. We can all the machines are inside, so we don't have a gate anymore. You're able to pay for your parking online using a mobile app, which is taking us to the next level, and we're very excited about that. Next, please. And last and definitely not least, I don't see the other. Is there another picture? Should be 2. Anyway, there's new signs going to be installed by the end of December. So hopefully, but the first one is the big sign that's going to be on the front. It's going to stand taller than the one we have now. It's going to have a marquee on it. It's going to be bright and beautiful blue. Those things have been up there for so long, those signs. So it was time to give us a new look, and I think the citizens of this community is going to be pleased with that. Next, please. So how can you help? I'm just here to bring awareness. Use us for your flying needs. Florence, the airport, to have an airport with what we offer in our area is critical for economic development. It's critical for Florence to grow, for the growth of Florence. And I understand searching around for great rates, but I'm saying we're competitive, and if you can, use our services so that we can continue to grow. Help us to change those old perceptions about our airport and to rebrand it. Fly local when you can. Follow us on our social media accounts. Let us know when there's something that we can do to be involved in the community. We want to be involved. We had a Santa fly-in this past weekend, and we handed out over 800 gifts. It was phenomenal. I think that's the most people I've seen at the airport in ever, maybe. But it was phenomenal to have that. But we're here to say that we're here, and we want to be a part of everything that goes on in this community, and we certainly want to be a strong enforcer to continue the growth in Florence.
Well, Ms. Anderson, I do want to thank you for doing that presentation. I would ask, if you have that in electronic form, would you share it with Ms. Casey?
I did. She
Moore?
has it.
She has
it now.
And I'm sure she'll share it with the rest of the council.
Absolutely.
So thank you once again for coming here today. Thank you also for the dedication that you've placed into the airport, and also the plans and the vision you have.
Thank you.
And based on what we had this past week with the announcement for economic development, I'm pretty sure that would also have an effect on the growth and advancement of the importance of the airport. So thank you for all that you and all those which you've done to make sure the airports stay open. At this time, I recognize the Pro Tem.
Thank you for coming. I know you came to our Business Development Committee meeting and gave a presentation, and we were so impressed by your presentation there that the recommendation was made that you come and repeat it basically to all of council. So not only all of council could hear great things happening out at the airport, but also our community could hear it as well. And so we thank you for coming and doing that. I will tell you personally, I am very impressed with your leadership. I'm very impressed with your board's leadership, and I am convinced that through y'all's leadership, the continued trajectory, and like a plane taking off, we're going to continue to see great things. And what I would ask our community to do is like I do, and that is, if you're going to fly somewhere, check. You go to Google Flights, it's really easy, and just check to see what the rates are coming out of Florence. And I think as I found, as you have announced, that the rates are competitive. Not all the time.
That's right.
I'll say it's
up
not
and
all
down.
the
I mean,
time.
you can check your rates now and check them in an hour, and they're going to be different.
Right.
My
But,
advice is the earliest you can get your tickets booked, the cheaper your rates are going to be.
and it is surprising how competitive the rates are out of Florence. So I encourage our community to fly local. You want to buy local, let's fly
That's
local,
right, fly local.
as much as possible. Thank you for being with us.
You're very welcome.
Chair recognizes Councilman McCall.
Hey, and thank you, Mrs. Anderson, for your presence here today. I think it means a lot. My first flight was through Florence, the Florence Regional Airport, and my wife always said I should probably get a check for how much I market. People should definitely fly out of Florence because it's definitely. I always tell them if we want to see the airport grow, we have to use it. So every time I've flown so far, I've flown out of Florence. Even though sometimes it might be a little more expensive sometimes, but I always, because I want to see the airport grow, I definitely want to support it. And again, I want to echo what the Mayor Pro Tem has said. I think the community definitely needs to make sure that if you're flying, every time you're going to fly out, always check through Florence first. I think that's how we can move the city forward. And I guess you said upward trajectory.
That's right.
That's what we're looking for. Again, we have to make sure everyone is starting locally, and that's supporting our local airport. So thank you for your service and your willingness to be here today.
Any other council member? Chair recognizes Councilman Braddock.
I actually had a couple of questions, if you got a minute. One is with direct fulfillment being such a big thing, small packages coming to your doorstep. What is the likelihood of Florence being a hub for that, for bigger planes coming in with packages and having some type of direct fulfillment coming out of Florence?
We actually just signed an agreement with an electric charging company that's going to have planes that are going to be electrically charged planes that are going to be coming much like, it's going to be like an Uber in the air is how they described it to us. So there's something on the horizon for that.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Also,
the charging station should be in within the next couple of years, which we will also have charging stations in the parking lot for electric vehicles. So an electric plane, I mean, that's pretty phenomenal.
yeah, no doubt. Well, that's exciting. Also, what's the chances, or are there any talks of a second airline coming in, or the potential for that?
There's always talks.
Yeah.
Always talks. That's why we have had to reach out and get in a consultant. We also have a community development air service group. We haven't meeting in a little while, but it's important to have the community involved. They're going to look at numbers, and when they look at our numbers and they look at the leakage study and they see that we're only capturing 26% of the people in this area, it's going to be hard to convince them to come.
Yeah. So
Those numbers have to increase. We got to give them something to come for. And I think that's part of this program is to get out and say, start using what we have. If we don't use it, we're going to lose it. And that's just economics. You don't use it, you're going to lose it.
So there you go, Florence. If you want another airline, come and use it. And lastly, I want to say that you got a lot of high school students out there training to become pilots now too,
Yes,
don't
sir.
you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Yeah, for our future. So thanks again for coming.
Absolutely. You're welcome.
Any other comments or questions from council? Hearing none, Ms. Anderson, thank you once again for
Thank
being
you.
here, and thank you for all that you do. Next, we will proceed into our ordinance in position. And the first bill is Bill number 2022-35, which is for a second reading. And it is an ordinance to annex and zone RG-3 approximately 325 acres identified as Florence County Tax Map number 00072-01-007 and 00072-01-020, 00072-01-022, 00072-01-024, 00072-01-025, 00072-01-025, 00072-01-030, and Darlington County Tax Map Number 1690001-026, 16900-01-027, and 169-00-01-029. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let the minutes reflect the bill has passed, second reading. Next, we have Bill number 2022-36 for a second reading. It is an ordinance to amend the City of Florence budget fiscal year from 2022-23. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, like sign. The bill has passed. Next, we're entering into introduction of ordinance. This bill would be Bill number 2022-01 for a first reading. And this is an ordinance which will be discussed in executive session if there's no objections. It's an ordinance adopting the redistricting plan for 3 single-member districts of the City of Florence, South Carolina, in accordance with the federal decimal census of 2020. Centennial. Hearing no objection, this will be discussed in executive session. Next, we have Bill number 2022-37 for first reading. It's an ordinance to amend the design guidelines for downtown Florence, South Carolina, and the Unified Development Ordinance. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is an ordinance to amend the design guidelines. The last our design guidelines was originally adopted in 2005, and these are amendments to update that since we've obviously seen a pretty drastic increase in construction prices and some of the things that the Design Review Board is looking to change this year. So first is the amendment to change the threshold in which staff can make administrative approvals from $5,000 to $15,000. This is often roofs or replacing windows, things of that nature. And then the other change is to amend the section regarding roll-down security measures and to more clearly define that. So we had a recent case that brought this up, and we wanted to address that more clearly within the design guidelines, and this is a recommendation that went through Design Review Board, Planning Commission, and is now before you.
Do we have any questions or concerns? Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Clint, with regard to the second part of it,
Yes.
As I read it, that while there was a inclination to not want to see these solid metal roll down facades for security purposes, the change now is an active, we really don't want it. And,
That's right.
and unless there's some exception to having it, it is frowned upon with the change. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes. What we used to see downtown was the old roll-down mesh on the storefronts, which is certainly something that implies blight, and we're trying to not recommend. A good example of those that are accepted is if you look at the old library further down Irby Street. It has the decorative metal on the first floor windows. We have some provisions to allow that if going to the Design Review Board, but more recommendations along security glass, things of that nature to
And
meet
camera
those needs.
systems and
That's
things
right.
like that, yeah.
More modernized.
I'll just say, I'm very excited to see this change, because I think it's the appearance of our downtown, and to be inviting and warm and welcoming, the safe and clean and safe and all of that is vital to encourage new businesses, as we're trying to do. And so I just appreciate what y'all are doing. Thank you.
Do we have any other discussions or any questions at this time? If not, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that this bill has passed first reading. Thank you, Mr. Moore, for your input on that one. Next, we have Bill number 2022-38 for first reading. It is an ordinance to annex and zone commercial general 3 parcels located at 401, 409, and 411 Pamlico Highway, identified as Florence County Tax Map parcels number 90109-01-002 and 90109-01-003, and a portion of 90108-05-001. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. We can hear from Mr. Moore on this bill.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a request to annex. It's a portion of 90108-05-001, and then the other 2 parcels. This is the location of Pelican's snow cone place there on Pamlico Highway. So it is bordered by Pamlico Highway, Siesta, and Church Street. This is going to be the location of a new commercial development. There are going to be 3 quick serves and a few other units as well with this. We have already received applications for the 2 of the units for the redevelopment of this property, and this is bringing the remainder portion of that full development into city limits.
What's a quick serve?
Shall recognize
Quick
the
serve
pro
is,
tem.
I'm sorry, quick serve restaurant, so like a Chick-fil-A
Oh,
or
okay.
any of the, any quick serve type
I'm
restaurants.
not up on the vernacular. Sorry about that.
Sorry, apologies.
That was a gas station.
Any other questions? Any other questions for Mr. Moore? Any other discussion? Mr. Moore, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Please let the record reflect that this bill has passed. Next, we will have Bill number 2022-39 for first read. It is an ordinance to annex and zone general residential RG-2, the former Palms Golf Course, identified as parcels of Florence County Tax Map parcel number 00751-01-049. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is the request to annex the remaining portion of the Palms Golf Course. Many of you remember this was on our agenda for some time, but the developer, I believe it was last year, decided to remove it from the agenda just as they were working out the details of the development. So in 2021, we did annex the lake portion of that property, and then on November 8th of this year, last month, Planning Commission held the public hearing for the annexation of the remainder of this property. So right now, it's approximately 175 residential units going into this redevelopment of the golf course. They are requesting RG2. Planning Commission did unanimously recommend that zoning as well. And this concludes staff report.
Do you have any questions? Chair recognizes Pro
Please
Tem.
remind us again, RG2.
RG2 is a smaller lot, so it's going to be around it's actually a little step up above from what we typically have seen recently. Much of the subdivisions that have annexed and zoned into the property have been RG3. but the developer, wanting to be more complementary to the existing parcels around it, has gone with the larger lot. So he's looking at 8,000 to 10,000 square foot lots with this property.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let it record reflect that this bill has passed. Next, we have Bill number 2024-40 for first reading. It is an ordinance to declare a portion of the Florence County tax map parcel 90078-01-006, specifically a 30-foot by 339-foot portion along the southern property line as surplus, and authorize the transference of land to Joseph and Molly Roberts for the purpose of combining the Florence County tax map parcel 90078-01-005. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. At this time, we'll hear from Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This is a request from the property owners, Joseph and Molly Roberts. This came to the city's attention approximately 3 years ago when they purchased the home. So we currently own a lot on Santee Drive, which is the location of one of our sewer interceptors that run through there, and actually from the survey, the sewer line is actually, pull that back up, is located there to the right of our property. So it's kind of skirting the other property line. When the property owner purchased the single-story brick residence, they had a number of their driveway, a retaining wall, landscaping, a number of things that were located actually on our property. And so for the last 3 years, we have been working through the encroachment process of renewing that annually. We allowed them to conduct a survey to determine where exactly our sewer line was so that we could essentially do a permanent fix to this issue that we have going on. So they have requested the 30-foot section of that property to correct their property issue with their, obviously, all their driveway and everything located on that. And there are no conflicts that we have with that. And so it is staff's recommendation to declare this surplus property. We will then have the property appraised and then sell that at market rate value.
And also, Mr. Moore, with that sale, that still leave the city access to the lines that we have there,
That's
correct?
right. Yes.
Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Let it reflect that Bill number 2022-40 has passed the first reading. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Next, we'll have introduction of resolutions. Resolution number 2022-34 is a resolution to establish a multi-year budget to designate and authorize the use of E-911 funds for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2022 and ending June the 30th, 2029. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And second. We have a motion and a second. We'll hear from Mr. Yocum at this time.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Before you this afternoon, you have resolution 2022-34. Back in 1997, City Council passed a E911 fee that goes on residential and other landlines, and the purpose of that fee is to fund a portion of the countywide 911 addressing system. City Council 7 years ago adopted a 7-year funding plan which expired June 30, so it's time to renew that plan for an additional 7 years. And staff is recommending that the funds be used in two ways. One, to pay the cost to maintain the software that maintains the city's addressing system through our GIS program, along with funding a portion of the personnel costs for 2 positions in the planning department that work directly with the GIS software. And that concludes my report.
Do we have any Questions or discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. And opposed, like sign. Hearing none, let it be known that resolution number 2022-34 has passed. Next, we have resolution number 2022-35 is a resolution and conditional grant and a development agreement to provide an incentive for the development of new housing within the East Florence as part of the ongoing neighborhood redevelopment project. If there's no objection, this item will be taken up in executive session. Okay. Hearing no objection, the item will be in executive session. Next, we have report to council. We will have reports from Deputy City Manager, Mr. Scotty Davis, in reference to appointments to boards and commission.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We currently have 3 boards or commissions that have either a vacancy or expired terms. We start first with the Memorial Stadium Commission. There is a vacancy on that board. We do have one applicant, Mr. Robert Pridgeon, and that appointment falls to Councilman McCall.
Yeah, at this time, I'd like to defer that nomination until next month's meeting.
Let the record reflect that that nomination has been deferred.
Our next board is our Public Safety Citizens Review Board. There is a vacancy on that board. We do have 2 applicants, David Jones and William Matthews Jr. That falls to Madam Mayor.
I will defer at this time. So please let the record reflect that that appointment has been deferred.
Finally, we have the Housing Authority. There is 1 vacancy on that board. We do have 5 applicants that falls to Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson.
On that point, I appoint Thomas Porter.
At this time, Councilwoman has nominated Mr. Thomas Porter as the nominee.
A second.
We have a motion in this second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect that Mr. Thomas Porter has been appointed to the Housing Authority of Florence. Thank you so much, Mr. Davis, for that. And at this time, I have in place a report from the mayor, and I really just want to do more of a closeout for the end of the year that we've had. I would like to say that I think we've had a good year. I think Florence entered into New Year's with partnerships, working with the various foundations as well as with our county, which yielded the new green space over at the park, Levy Park. So that was a good way to start our year off. And as we proceed on, we're doing good things with our Florence Downtown Development Corporation. You see that we have activity with the Norfolk building, which is downtown. There's some work still being taken place with the old pharmacy. So we're moving forward there. And also, I would like to point out that, we're still working with the urban square development, and you probably will notice on McQueen Street that 2 of the buildings there have been torn down as well. And we have made progress. Some of the things that you will see seeing at the first part of next year should hopefully be coming out of the ground, our new parking deck, which will be in that area, along with some activity from the developer there. And we still have activity within our community. I'll commend that when it comes to our community redevelopment revalidation program. We had 2 new homes off of our Pine Street, one of which is already been sold, the other one is under contract, and that's excellent. We continue to be an award-winning city by winning the awards for Main Streets, awarding one of those, and also winning the Joseph P. Riley Economic Development Award. But I also think it's important, I know some of the council members spoke to it, that we're now starting to work on our stormwater system. And I would like to thank our staff for making sure the priority of that, of getting these projects ongoing, because I know that's going to be an expensive project that we have now, and it's going to be ongoing in the future because we have a long list that we do need to accomplish. But I'll also say that as the other councils give their update, I would like to say we are ending the year on a good note. We can state that we have a new business coming in town, Envision. It was a hard time keeping that quiet, but that is a good accomplishment, and that is a key representation of partnerships throughout our city and our county working together. I think that this partnership is not only important because of the different government entities working together. This project has required that our school district be involved, because with the advancement of this particular facility, they will be focusing on working with our youth from middle school through college. So that's Florence School District 1 will be involved. You have Florence Darlington Tech and Francis Marion. So this is going to affect our educational system as well. SC Works, Ready to Work is already involved working with the organization. So I would like to say that we talked about our airport, and it's going to be a key factor because the development will be right across in the area across from there. And that would also help with that. And in conversations, that's one of the things the industry is looking at. How can they help us even with our airport? So I would like to commend the City Council on being able to come together with our 2 members who are actually off at this time and our 2 new members, because each board had an input, that we came together and actually developed and supported that packet that made this happen. So I'll commend our council for coming together, because that's what's it's going to take, not only us as leadership, but also working with others to make that happen. And I do believe that there's some brighter things that's going to be occurring in 2023 as well. But I just wanted to report on that so that we will all know that we've done some great things together, and there's still yet some great things to come. And to our new council member, Councilman Smith, your area is going to have a lot of focus there because you got some beautiful things happening with the park there, and I know that y'all looking at some ideals and finances that might help with that. And I don't want to forget our Representative Lowe, who did bring some funding into the area to help with that corridor as well. So that's also important. We do have some additional green space that's located going down Church Street that I've talked with Councilman Smith about, that we need to look at how we're going to handle that green space there as well. So we have a lot of things that's coming forth, and that won't be all of them, but just to say I want to commend the council and thank our staff for the faithful dedication and work that they've put forward to make these things happen for us. I always say we're the leadership, but our staff works day to day to make these things come forward for us. And to our attorney, Mr. Peterson, thank you for always being there, giving us good legal advice. But that is just a quick report. I don't want to bestow our time too much, but I just want to say that we've got great things on the horizon here in Florence, and I think that our teamwork is going to make a difference. So, Council, thank you for that. And at this time, we are prepared to proceed on with our agenda. And next, we will have on our agenda here our committee reports. And at this time, we will recognize the chair of our Business Development Committee to please give an update and report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
The Business Development Committee met November 17, and it was myself, Councilman Schofield, who was still on council at that time, as well as Councilwoman Barnes. Our city manager was with us, as well as Michael Hemingway, and we had a very good discussion, initially talking about the ongoing business projects, including Project Urban Square, as well as the site where the old motel was over on East Palmetto Street. Then a question was asked about the status of the American Rescue Plan Act funding, and we received an update as far as the expenditure of those funds. And as Ms. Anderson talked about the receipt of federal funds and monies during COVID and all to assist, just wanted to remind our constituents here that we did receive some funding, and what we were able to do with that is to keep our city employees on board. We did not have to lay off any city employees, and so I want to commend our city manager, Mr. Osterman, as well as all the city staff for the efforts that were made to keep our folks employed during that very difficult time, and not only keep them employed, but also find new employees, as was a challenge as well. And I see our chief Hydler's over there shaking his head. That was certainly a challenge for our first responders. So we were able to do that, but in addition to that, we also were able to take some of the funds, $3 million to use towards various water and sewer projects, and $1 million that was used towards enhanced broadband access. So those were just some of the areas that we were able to do by utilizing those funds, and just want to commend staff for the diligent work to not only receive those funds, but also to do a very good job in the administration of that to keep us ongoing. We did have another conversation in follow-up of the East Florence corridor and looking to what had been established as the ad hoc committee and additional appointees to that committee, and the name of Holly Beaumier was presented, but the committee rather, felt that we needed to have Councilman Smith on board and seek his input into that whole East Florence corridor development. And so at this time, we're not going to be presenting the names of any new people. And what we will do is just report to the council that kind of what we talked about at the committee level, but we will wait to see what we hear from Councilman Smith, particularly with regard to the ad hoc committee as we go forward throughout the rest of the agenda. Unless there's anything further from Councilman Barnes, no. Then that's our committee report today.
Thank you for that report, Councilman. Next, we will have a report from the chair of our Community Development Committee. Chairwoman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Our committee met, we met with Council McCall, Councilwoman Pat Gibson-Highmore is no longer with us, and we are looking to add new members. But we met on last week, I think, and we do have some good news. The mayor alluded to it. The house on Howard Street was sold, and that's as a part of the neighborhood revitalization plan, which is just great news, because oftentimes it is said when we put these brand new structures in the communities that they are not being sold, and this property is sold, and so we are really excited about that. Council McCall and myself, we attended the National League of Cities in Kansas City, and there was lots of information that we came back and shared with staff, and hope we will get something out of that. We also received an update on where we stand with the home demolition, and it is moving forward. It is not moving as fast as we thought it would, but it's not because of the hard work of our staff. Our staff is really working hard. What slows it down is really the paperwork, finding the owners. You've got all of these heirs, and you cannot do anything until we get the paperwork. The other problem that they are having, and we are having, is misinformation. There are a lot of properties that need to come down, but our citizens feel that we are here to go into the business of real estate. The city is not here to go into that business. We don't want your property. We just want your property to add value to our cities. And so when we are trying to assist in the process, because they may not have the money, we don't want to claim your property. We want to help you to beautify your property. The one of the things that we ask once we do this is that you keep it up, and you can also, I think I'm saying this correctly, this loan would be forgiven if you put another structure there. So we are really trying to work with the city to actually beautify our communities. And so let's please not do the misinformation. The misinformation is really slowing this process. The only other thing we did, I think, was we talked about, we will go on the agenda for the CDC to possibly talk about a new project that we could partner with them. And we will be excited when all of that comes into play. But I think that's all that I have if there's not anything else. No, I guess not.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that. And I do want to state too, along with the CDC, that when you meet with, they've got some good things on the horizon that they've been working on too. So that's really good. Next, we have on our agenda, so thank you again, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do have one other thing.
Okay, yes.
There was, I almost forgot. The storm drainage. We are excited about the storm drainage, and everybody is excited about that. However, I really wanted the explanation and the update to come from the city manager. So, city manager, if you don't mind coming at this time. Thank you.
Chair recognizes our city manager to give an update on our stormwater projects.
Thank you. Actually, I'll give a shout out to the Morning News. They had an excellent article in today's paper about the stormwater program, and Mr. Day covered it quite well. But as you're aware, during the budget process, Council approved a 50 cents increase in our stormwater fees, and that was designated to go to a list of projects as well as a stormwater master plan. Projects that were, for about lack of a better term, the easy projects. They're the ones that could get started quicker, required very little engineering, and we had access to the locations. We had the proper easements. Some of the other projects, all the projects are still being worked. However, some of them are larger, some of them are a lot more complex, and some of them, quite frankly, are on private property that we have to obtain easements and permissions in order to go in and do the work. So you see 4 where actual labor is occurring, but behind the scenes, all the other projects are in the engineering phase. We're seeking easements, and they are progressing along. So that's basically where we stand with the water or sewer.
Chair recognizes Pro Tem.
Stormwater. Thank you very much.
So, as I understand it, just for clarification, after we approved the 50-cent fee, that was then bonded on, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, and the amount of the bond that we were able to get was how much?
$7 million.
About $7 million?
Right.
Okay. And so what we had is did I also understand that we were able to then get some grants of another $7 million?
Yeah, is it a full 7? It's in that ballpark.
So we're able to use the $7 million that we got through the bonding and then get matching grant essentially for another $7 million. So the total amount that we're able to now use to go forward with the stormwater project is about $14 million.
That's correct. Now, unfortunately, like everything else in the world, the original estimates of cost, of $7 million will not cover the entire scope of the project. And we are continuing to apply for, and I think we're in good standing for a couple other potential grants related to stormwater.
Yeah, as I understood, also the Oakland Avenue project, we're looking to try to get a $3 million grant for that.
And we're looking for additional assistance for the Pennsylvania Street outfall.
Which, thank you to staff for the diligence in following up on this. This is high on everybody's list throughout the whole city and has been for quite some time. So the following up on it is much, much appreciated. As a public service announcement to our community, I read in your article, thank you, Mr. Day, for highlighting the treasure trove of what was found inside of these pipes, whether it was bricks, concrete blocks, toys, balls, as well as grass clippings and all that other stuff. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to have the water flow freely through these stormwater pipes, make sure during heavy rains that you take the balls and the toys out of your front yard so they don't get washed into the ditches and then get washed back into these pipes. Don't throw bricks and concrete into those things because it blocks it up. It is common sense, but it is a huge thing, and it is very expensive, I will also add, to try to fix that. So let's all do our part, please, by trying to keep the pipes that run and keep our properties from getting flooded. Let's keep the stormwater pipes operating functionally as they're supposed to so that the streets and properties don't get flooded. That's the end of my PSA. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Jackson.
So my question is, these first projects that are being done, they start when?
They started, they started as soon as the ordinance was passed to allow for the 50 cents increase. And that was engineering design work. The actual in the street activity started last week.
Okay. And so these are the easy projects that will last how long?
These are the easier projects.
Easier.
How long will they last? Some of that will depend upon if additional damage or issues are found. It will depend on how people treat the storm drains. It's our intent. It is our hope and desire that what occurs through this period should, help us get through the next 20 years, longer in some of the more complex areas.
So we go in and it look easy, but it could be a lot harder.
So every pipe that is associated with the storm drains in these areas have already been CCTV'd. We've looked at through cameras, and so we have a good understanding of what's in there. What we may find is additional damage to piping or whatnot. So the cleaning should be the cleaning. It's if other issues are discovered during that process.
Now, with the 14 million that we have, is that going to eat up these 4 projects, or will there be more funding for the rest of the projects that's engineering?
That money, to the best of our knowledge, will take care of the list of projects that were presented when the stormwater fee was increased at the last fiscal year.
Okay, we need that info too.
Okay.
City Manager, could you list those projects that will be?
Off the top of my head,
What?
how about if I get you a copy?
That'll work. That's good. That will definitely
Or
work.
I'll miss one or add one in my mind, so I'll get you a copy of that.
That sounds good.
Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge and thanks Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson for that, because Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson is one of our new council members. So thank you. Is there any other questions for our City Manager? If not, thank you. And also thank you to our chairwoman for bringing it back so they can address that. Next, we have our Marketing and Public Relations Committee. We will hear from that chairperson at this time.
Yes, ma'am, Madam Mayor. We did not have a meeting, but we do have an announcement that I feel like needs to be made, and that would be the South Florence Bruins winning the state championship. I think that is a public relations announcement. Me being a class of 1990 Bruin, I did not want that to get overlooked. And first time since Wilson won in 2007. And so that's 2 state championships this year for the city of Florence that we need to add to that list that you know, Wilson with basketball and South Florence with football. So very excited for Drew Marlowe and company representing our state well. And I think that, as we don't have really an impact on that, but I'm so proud of what Dr. O'Malley has done in the school board with the new stadiums, and it's really built an energy. West Florence did tremendously well this year, so I'm just taking the blunt of my time to thank the school district and all the athletes for their fine work in bringing those titles home to our city.
Thank you, Manager. I figured he would make that announcement.
I was just looking for the best time to do it that fit that.
But also, just to add on, with the Christmas parade coming up, the South Florence Bruins, the champions, will be in that parade. They should be probably the fourth position lead off, and I would like to commend the alumni, also the coaches and everyone who came together along with our school superintendent when they reached out and asked how could they best celebrate them. So they will, if you was not planning to come to the Christmas parade, if you want to see the councilman's alumni lead off with the parade, you should come out on December the 17th. The parade will be at 11 o'clock, and our champions will be in that parade. It was originally, I knew Wilson and South Florence at this point was going to be out, and I spoke with the superintendent, and he was communicating with West Florence as well. So it looks like we probably will have all three schools represented within the Christmas parade. So if you was not planning to come out and be one Florence and support these champions, because it's to my understanding, clarify me if I'm wrong, that when South Florence went to play, that every one of the school has someone there from Florence representing to support South Florence. So they really came forth as one Florence, and I also know that they also did have some shirts that signify all three schools coming together. Councilwoman, did you want to say something?
Just to add on to what you're saying, they had a humongous tailgate, and they prepared for 2,000 people. So Florence showed up and showed out in a major way.
Yes. And also, just so you know that as a city, we will be honoring the Bruins in January of next year, but also I know that the county council plans also to do the same, and it's to my understanding, our Senator Rickenbach is looking at having them actually go to Columbia to be recognized in Columbia. So these champions will be recognized. So once again, to our chair, thank you for that report. We appreciate it. Next, we have our report from our Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee from that chair. We're here from that chair at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just like the Marketing Committee, we did not meet due to the new investitures of our new council members. We decided to postpone that meeting to this December 28th of this month will be our next meeting time. So I don't have any report today.
All right. Thank you to all the committees for those reports. And next, we'll be at a place of doing reappointments of chairs and committee members for the council committees. And what we'll do at this time, we first have our Business Development Committee, and I will open the floor for nomination for chair for the Business and Development Committee. If there's no objection, the floor is now open for nominations.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move that we reestablish the Business and Development Committee as Councilwoman Jabali to be appointed as chair.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those, any discussion first of all? Hearing none, all those in favor of the reappointment of Councilman Jabali as chair for the Business Committee, Business Development Committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. Let the record reflect that Councilman Jabali has been reappointed as chair for the Business Development Committee. Next, we have the floor open.
Madam Mayor, I actually want to amend my motion as
Yes.
I need to follow. And following the appointment, I want to immediately receive recommendation from the chair to nominate 2 committee members.
Okay. Well, we already appointed them. So when we appoint those committee chairs, then those chairs, they have the opportunity anyway to do that. Steps. Yes. So next we have the floor is open for nomination for the chair of the Community Development Committee.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll move that we reestablish Community Development Committee with Councilman Barnes appointed as chair, and that following appointment, that council immediately receive recommendations from the chair to appoint the other 2 committee members.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second that Councilwoman Barnes be reappointed as chair for the Community Development Committee and that the members be immediately appointed. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. At this time, Councilwoman, do you have your appointees?
Yes, I do. I would like to reappoint Shaquez McCall and the newly elect LaShawn Denise Smith on the committee.
All right, thank you for those appointments. Those appointments have been established already by motion, giving you the right to do that. At this time, we are open for nomination for the Marketing and Public Relationship Committee Chair.
Madam Mayor, I move to reestablish the Marketing and PR Committee with Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson appointed as chair, and that following the appointment, council immediately receives recommendation for the chair to appoint the other 2 committee members.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson has been appointed chair with the reestablishment of the Marketing and Public Relationship Committee. Councilwoman, do you have your committee members? You can appoint now, or if you want to, you can appoint next. It's up to you.
Yeah, I would like to appoint Councilman Smith and Councilman Jabali.
Okay. At this time, the councilwoman has appointed Councilman Smith and Councilman Jabali. Okay. At this time, next we have the appointment for the chair for the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee. Do we have a nomination?
Madam Mayor, I move that we reestablish the Finance Committee with Councilman McCall appointed as chair, and that following appointment, council immediately receive recommendations from the chair to appoint the other 2 committee members.
All right. We have the motion for Councilman McCall to be appointed, and following he would do his appointees of committee members. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Councilman McCall has been reappointed as chair. Councilman, do you have your appointee?
Yes, ma'am. At this time, I'd like to appoint Lawrence Chipper Smith as well as Mr. Brian Braddock to my committee, to the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee.
All right. All right. Here.
Madam-
Here. Okay, I just
Go
wanted,
ahead. Excuse me. Go.
wanted to say that with that appointment being done by the chair, Council Member Smith and Braddock have both been appointed to the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee. Chair recognizes Councilman Jabali.
So I would
You can-
like to come back to the Business Development
You
Committee.
can.
Thank you.
Yes, you can.
And I'd like to appoint Councilwoman Barnes as well as Councilman Braddock.
All right. With establishment of the motions to have these committee members appointed immediately, thereby let the record reflect that Councilwoman Barnes and Braddock has been appointed to the Business and Development Committee.
Thank you.
That completes the nomination and appointment for the council committees and chairs. At this time, we have meritorial appointment to the City County Conference Committee. At this time, I am prepared to reappoint myself as mayor, and then also I will be appointing Councilwoman Neesmith Jackson to that board. Okay. Let me correct that, y'all. I'm not going to appoint Councilwoman to that one. I have another thing I want to. I'm going to appoint me as mayor and also Councilman Smith, representative from District 1 at that time. And also, I will be appointing Councilman Braddock from District 3. To both Councilman Smith and Braddock, do y'all receive the appointment? Do y'all accept the appointments?
Yes, sir.
Thank you both for being willing to serve on the City County Conference Committee. At this time, our next item is appointment to the East Florence Gateway Study Committee. Do we have position statement?
Madam Mayor, I would like to defer, just to give me some more time, based off of Councilman Jabali's statement. I would like to defer. Make a motion.
Okay.
A second.
All right then. So we have a motion and a second to defer the appointment to the East Florence Gateway Study Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of deferral, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, like sign. That has been deferred. Next, we have executive session items, and if there are no objection, the following items will be taken up in executive session. A, to receive legal advice on the redistricting plan 30-4-70A2. B, the negotiation incident to to propose contractual matters 30-4-70A2, and to receive an update on legal matters, which is under 30-4-70A2, and a personnel matter, which will be based on 30-4-70A1. If there's no objection, we will enter into our executive session at this time. Hearing none, we are in executive session. At this time, we are returning from our executive session, at which time we received information to legal and personnel matters, but there was no votes or action taken in our executive session. Thank you. I hope y'all picked me up just now. But we're back from the executive session, and at this time, we will proceed with our agenda where we left off from executive session items. We will return to introduction of ordinance, and it will be bill number 2020-201 that was for a first reading. It was an ordinance adopting a redistricting plan for 3 single-member districts for the city of Florence, South Carolina, according to the federal decimal census of 2020. Do we have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion to table this until May, so we can ask the staff to set up workshops for our council.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. So this item will be tabled till May. So next item following our agenda will be resolution number 2022-35, and it's a resolution and conditional grant.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. And opposed, like sign. That has completed our agenda items, but at the start, we did elect that we will allow our new council members to address our public. We will go in the order of districts. For first, we'll have District Number 1, Councilwoman Nee Smith Jackson.
My name is a tongue tire, y'all, because it's so long, I guess, LaShonda Nee Smith Jackson. But I want to say thank you to the constituents, the voters of District 1 for entrusting me with your vote. This November election was a test of resilience, a test of democracy, and I can tell you guys, we won. So thank you for allowing me to represent your district, and I promise I will not let you down.
Councilwoman, I'm going to say unto you, you're welcome. And for me, it's not the tongue twister. See, I knew Nee Smith.
I know, right?
I'm getting used to the Jackson. So welcome and thank you. And like I said, you are now my district representative as District 1. So welcome to the council and to your public service. Thank you for offering your service as well. Next, we will have our representative from District 2, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you to District 2 for allowing me to represent you and to represent Florence. I look forward to it, but I also want to thank the Trailblazers who allowed me to be in this situation as far as representing a single-member district and representing District 2, starting with Mr. Ed Robinson and Ms. Pat Gibson-Highmore. I thank you for setting the tone, and I look to carry the mantle and carry the torch. And I also look forward to working with our mayor and council, as well as the city staff. You guys are so wonderful. And thank you again for everyone that made this possible.
And to Councilman Smith, welcome aboard, and we appreciate your presence. And based on the 2 that you just announced, you're walking into some great footsteps there. I believe that they have blazed a pathway of leadership for the area. So once again, welcome to the City Council. We thank you for all that we know you're going to be able to do to help move the city forward. If that concludes everyone's hearts and mind, at this time we can stand adjourned.